Oh. Right, well, good evening. Welcome to the ERC meeting for January 31st, 2022. I haven't received any apologies. It looks like we will have a full meeting if Jason Simon manages to join. So we'll go straight on to the approval of the minutes of the last meeting, just to get that out of the way. Hopefully everyone's read them. Do I hear any comments on the meeting?
No, not from here.
I did have some typo corrections from you, Lee. I've included those. So all those in favor of approving the minutes of the meeting, please say aye or raise your hands. Yes, Bernie?
I can't, I wasn't there.
Oh, you weren't there? That's the very good point. Very good point. Yeah, thank you.
There weren't many of us, were there?
No, there weren't. So I'll meeting minutes approved. I haven't received any apologies. Hopefully Jason is able to join.
I try and text it to him too, John, on the side, just in case his email's not agreeing with him.
Okay, all right. Well, the first item.
Don't we have to wait for the other Jason to get here? Because I wasn't at the last meeting too.
That's true, isn't it? Yes, yeah, you're probably right.
Oops, technicality.
Technicality, you're right. So we can talk amongst ourselves while we wait for Jason to come in, or we'll proceed.
Say something.
I'm just waiting for, I'm looking at, looking intently at Dan.
Well, why don't I start by saying Happy New Year to this group?
Oh, that's,
Happy New Year. Same to you.
we're already a month into it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, for us, it's, and normally you would get a new, you wouldn't be stuck with me again as the liaison. You'd get someone new. But this year, the new chair, James McCartney, has elected to maintain all of the liaison assignments the same. So I have, in many ways, I'm glad because I enjoy this group. There he is.
Ah, here comes Jason.
So
Can we just pause a moment? Jason, can you hear us? Can you hear us, Jason?
He's speechless.
Well, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can talk about him for the next few minutes until he gets like that.
If you look at the bottom of the screen, Jason, if you can hear me, I don't know if you can. Nod your head if you can hear me. I guess you can't. I think we'll have to go to sign language.
I'm here.
Oh, you're
There we
there.
go.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
I
Jason,
spend all day on Teams. This Zoom stuff is, for amateurs.
okay, well, you welcome to
Here,
the
here.
welcome to the amateur meeting then. All right. We skipped over. It was pointed out to me that the minutes couldn't be approved, Jason, unless you were here, because neither Bernie nor Jason McFarland were at the meeting. So if you've read the minutes of the last meeting, Jason, and you're happy with them, that'll be a quorum to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Approved or
Approved.
Confirmed.
Okay, good. Which takes us on to Dan, who's now obviously managed to get through to you. And
thank
what's
you
the
for your
status?
help.
Yeah, what's the status, Dan?
What's the status? So,
Yeah.
as I was just saying, I'm the liaison again, and because we have a new board chair. Right, let me back up, and I think most of you are aware of this, but I'll just say it for anyone that may be watching, or just as a reminder. Right, we elected a new board chair at our reorg meeting first at the beginning of January. As such, it's the board chair's prerogative, working with township staff, to set up the Board of Supervisors agendas. We may have, ask for stuff, we being other supervisors, but it's up to them to put it on the agenda. So last year, probably maybe even the year before that, if we go back that far, we've been, this group has been asking and providing the recommendation that PICO come before the board for to follow up on the meeting that we had with Ted Duran here with the ERC with some very specific questions at that time. Since then, there's been other items that I think this group has helped a great deal to address. The Yardley Hunt outage, for example. I think that was one example of this group coming through and providing some very key information to the township to go back to PICO and try and correct some things on their communication systems, among other things. So I think this group is doing, has proven its value to the township, just with a couple of clear examples. That being said, there have been some other issues with PICO on the I'll say the gas distribution side with some of their local work where it's been causing some issues and headaches with residents, that it's the same folks that this group would address or talk to. And it's the same type of issues with contractors and communication, et cetera. So I think in an effort to try and move the ball down the field, as it were, with the requests and the guidance that this board has, this advisory board has provided to the Board of Supervisors in the past, it would make sense if you all are still of the same mindset to provide an updated recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, with the new chair being the chair and responsible for the agenda, to just try and move that forward. And I'll continue to advocate for it. I don't, it's obviously up to you, but I know it seems like that's been a big priority as well as a big frustration for y'all. And I understand and appreciate that. So I just want to give you the chance to address it again if that's something you'd like to do.
Well, from my point of view, it is the only item of interest to the board, getting PICO involved. If we don't have PICO in front of us, then we're just wasting our time. And I welcome comments from others, but unless we do get PICO, we may as well put the ERC into abeyance and wait for further direction from the Board of Supervisors. So, and it seems that the path to get the ERC onto the BOC agenda seems to be very complex. As I said in the email to you, and I sent Dan, it's a complex way.
Yeah, to your point, it's not supposed to be, which is unfortunate, right? It's pretty straight. The idea is pretty straightforward. It's how we do it with every advisory board. There's a formal recommendation. It goes before the Board of Supervisors, and then it's usually put on the agenda for discussion, and we consider it, and then we move forward with it. If it's something that we want to move, as a board, we want to move forward with this. It shouldn't be complicated is what I'm trying to get at, because the process is pretty simple and straightforward. It's the burden, I guess, is trying to get 3 supervisors to vote in favor of pushing that forward. When I think there may be some hesitancy from certain folks on the board and maybe even the administration to bring PICO in front of us to have that discussion. It's not up, it's as an advisory board, you can have your role as individual residents. You can have your role as well in terms of advocating for this approach. But I want to give I think it's wise to give the new chair an opportunity to address it in his own way, without, seeing it fresh, address it in his own way, and see where it goes from there. I think it goes without saying, you'll get my vote in terms of trying to have PICO in front of us in a constructive manner. I think that's the key, right? Which you all demonstrated wonderfully and very professionally when PICO came before this group. Asked some very pointed questions, but in a respectful manner, and you got good answers and you got good feedback, which can open that dialogue. So I think that would be the same way the board would would approach it, but
When
I'll stop
when
talking
we,
and let you
pre-
guys go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
when
Sorry,
we
Jason.
presented the request last year or whatever the timeline was there any discussion on the issue? And are there any concerns and or roadblocks that we should be aware of that perhaps we could address in a new request?
That's a great question. There was a discussion, and quite honestly, I don't have the meeting minutes open in front of me from the supervisor meeting.
That's fine.
But
Sure,
generally
yeah.
speaking, yeah, we've had a couple discussions about it because I bring it up during the supervisor meetings, supervisor reports, I should say, sorry. And
Yep.
I brought it up rather formally a couple times. And we had a little bit of a discussion about it. And I think the first time I brought it up, there was some discussion about whether or not this group provided clear direction, and the township manager, I don't think, had read the email or letter that this group, John, had sent on behalf of the board, which was the follow-up to that was more discussion. We had gone over the letter that was written, and it was very clear and concise and prescriptive, all those things that folks wanted. And the board never, the board chair last year never moved forward with it. Not to get into too much detail, but I think there's certain folks on the board that want to avoid PICO, and or the township manager has his own way of doing things. And it's basically, it comes down to most things, it comes down to getting 3 votes to move it forward. So it is what it is, but it's still an important issue. It should not be a divisive issue by any means. It's just, I think it benefits
Very
everyone.
apolitical, right?
I
There's no
think
political
so.
issue.
Yeah.
So I'm in favor of heeding your guidance and resubmitting. We have nothing to lose, and my colleagues, certainly longer than I have, but I'm here too, have worked very hard over a period of time. And I agree. I thought the conversation we had with Ted was interesting, informative, respectful, all those things. I don't think we put the township at any risk with PICO or the relationship that the township manager or any chair would have. So, Chair Kingham, I'm all in for resubmitting and seeing if we can validate the work that everybody here has done.
So how do we do that? How do we get that in front of the board? Do we have to go through Kurt, or is it simply?
So yeah, go ahead.
Jason does as he just said, makes a motion that we request the board to ask PICO to come to a meeting. I'm avoiding the word public because I don't think public meetings achieve much. They tend to degenerate.
Oh, sorry, dog's being brushed. Nothing bad happening here. Just a couple mats on the dog. Don't call nobody at home. Call anybody. We're okay.
By the way, I like your haircut, Jason. Looks good. Hadn't seen you in a while.
Yeah.
He didn't make that sound when he got his haircut, though.
Yeah, you don't know that.
That would be funny. So I guess there's a couple. The main thing is, at least the message I got from the Board of Supervisors, is that they want the direction to be very clear, which I think you've done in the past. So if there's anything to update in that letter, any more questions or more detailed questions or more guidance, please feel free to do that, because they want it very prescriptive is the message I'm getting.
I'm sorry, Dan. I have a question about that. I mean,
sure.
At some level, like, we can provide that. On the other level, it's an opportunity for the 5 of you and the township manager to expand or utilize that time as they see fit. So we'll do it, but to me, that would be part of the message to them, right?
No, I agree 100%. I would, this is kind of my line of work to begin with. So I have all kinds of other questions to ask in addition to what this group has put together, just because you see how he answers the questions and then you go off of that too in some ways. So I agree wholeheartedly with you, Jason. It's just, if we want to get it on the agenda, the response to date has been, well, what are we going to ask him? How are we going to ask him? What's it going to be like? Et cetera. So we want to, as much as we can, and willing and able to do, provide that guidance and recommendations as an advisory board. Now, whether or not that gets it on the agenda, I can't. I'm no prophet. I'm not the chair. I can continue to make the requests in a polite and respectful and professional manner.
So is that the way to do it? I mean, you are our liaison with the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah. So what
hey, do we just say, hey, Dan, at the next meeting or whatever, behind closed doors, you bring it up and say, we want to get the ERC?
No, so just basically all you got to do is make the motion, however you want to make it, vote on it with assuming it's what you want to do, right? Vote on it, make sure it's in the minutes, send me an email if you like, summarizing it. Last time it seemed to get lost in the mail for a little bit. So I can we have a supervisor meeting in 2 days. So all I would do is bring it up during my supervisor report that this group has provided an updated recommendation of the Board of Supervisors to bring PICO in front of us to, answer some questions, however you word the motion, right? And I can say that and say it's been important to this board, and we are requesting that it be put on on a future agenda, and then we basically go from there.
Okay.
Dan, is it just a question of changing the date, or do we need to do different things, a different approach? The date on the memo.
No, I hear you. I thought the memo you did last time was pretty clear and concise and answered the mail. So unless there's something you want to add to it based on any follow-up that's occurred, the Yardley Hunt event is the one thing that sticks out in my mind. But even that was addressed accordingly. So I don't know that you need to.
Well, stop. No, actually, that's a very good point. The Yardley Hunt response that we got from Ted Duran was the first response I've seen from PICO where it specifically says they had a meeting based on what we sent them, and it looked like they were taking us seriously for the first time. It wasn't a sales job. It wasn't a public relations job. They went through our presentation to them and took each point turn by turn. And I think they saw the ridiculousness or the stupidity of the messages that they're sending out to the public, in our case, Lower Makefield Township, when there's an outage. I mean, the messaging was just absolutely appalling and laughable. I guess it's not so funny when your lights are out, but when you read it afterwards, it's laughable. And
so so maybe John, you could, maybe one way to do it is to add a line to that memo, as Bernie was talking about, that references the Yardley Hunt event and looks for follow-up in the messaging. As an example, the updates that they said they were going to do after the Yardley Hunt event. There's something like that, or something, some better version of what I just said.
Something specific. We know that if we say, hey, when are you going to put all the cable underground or move the rear services to the front and then underground, we know they're going to give us a standard stock answer. No, it's not going to happen anytime soon and it's too expensive and all that. But let's concentrate on their messaging. PICO has said they're doing things to improve it. Well, tell us what you've done.
Yeah. That could be a very positive thing for them to say at a meeting. If they've executed and it's working, that could be a very positive for them.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be contentious at all if they've gotten that done.
No, it shouldn't be contentious. Just tell us how you're doing.
Yeah.
John, maybe we take that angle. I know we had a discussion about you, and it's near and dear to your heart, about better messaging from PICO with eliminate calls to the fire department during an event, or, the township or the police. Like, we've talked about giving residents a place to sort of follow a trail if there's an outage. But we talked also if that PICO were more accurate and timely, that might cause on the other side some relief from some of the inbound, I don't want to call it pressure, but inbound communications that trigger when people are in the dark, no pun intended, although it was a good pun and I will stand by it.
Yeah, well, you brought it up in the first place, Jason, the fact that it's messaging which upsets people more than the actual outage itself.
I agree. Yeah, I
Hey,
do
the
believe
lights
that.
are out,
Yeah.
but if Pico's telling us it's going to come back on at 9:30 and it doesn't happen, and it's anyway. Yeah.
And
Okay.
John, I think I told you this story, but the rest of you might appreciate this. Last week, I was giving a presentation to my C-suite in my company. We're a 20,000 person company where I work, on electric reliability and how that's working with respect to renewables and other types of projects around the country. And I lost power about 5 minutes into my presentation. President of my company was like, "You got to be kidding me." He's texting me saying, "Get back on the phone." I said, "No, I'm serious. I lost power." And it was, of course, first question was, "Who's your provider?" And I was like, "They're not a client." Don't worry. But it was just amazing that happened in the middle of that.
Okay, so what we really need to do then is hear a motion this evening that we request PICO to provide an update to the Board of Supervisors on its upgrades to its messaging procedures, protocol, methods, whatever. Is that what we're saying? I hope so.
I think we're saying.
I'm just,
Do I hear a motion to that effect?
no, can I just say that I hear something from Dan saying that we have to be specific. And so, the thing is that, is there anything specific that we can say that could lead the conversation?
So here's my recommendation to try and help answer your question, Bernie, at least from what I would recommend something along the lines of a motion to resubmit and I forget the date, to resubmit the memo previously provided to the Board of Supervisors that recommends bringing PICO in front of the Board of Supervisors to have a conversation about PICO's actions, et cetera, with the additional, while adding the additional item of communication with respect to their improvements to communication with respect to outages, et cetera, as evidence. But as an example, the document that they sent us related to the Yardley Hunt event. I'm sure there's a better, more eloquent, shorter way to say that, but I'm thinking out loud.
Well, I understand what you're saying, Dan. I think the Board of Supervisors would like to have some questions to ask, specific questions. And I'm not sure that memo, we just asked them to come in front and explain themselves.
Well, actually, you did provide some good questions and specific items to address. I will say that. I thought those were good. I thought you covered a lot of bases. Yeah, don't sell yourself short. I'll say that, because I did think they were quite good.
But I'm just keying off the fact that you said that they might be frightened off by vagaries and they would like some, dare I say, bullets to fire.
Well, on that point, I'm just going to see if I can share my screen. I don't know if I can or not. I'm going to say screen 2. If I say share, can you see what's on the screen?
Yes.
Yes. Well, that's the end of the PICO memo after the outage in Yardley Hunt. He's got specific points there saying what they're doing. I would like to refer to those points and say, okay, one of them said, number 3 says we are implementing additional systems software upgrades which will ensure that outage cores will be included in restoration messages. Those upgrades will be complete by December. Well, this is January. I'm assuming December 2021. You know, that's the sort of thing I would like to get some response to. I would add that to the memo, Dan.
Yeah, I'm agree. That's what I was trying to recommend, John. I agree. And maybe to simplify it, so you don't have to rewrite all this stuff, you just reference providing response, updates to those items outlined in the memo dated whatever, and attach it.
It says specifically there what PICO is doing, and it looks like they are doing something.
Yeah.
Hey, give us an update.
So maybe add that as another bullet point or line item in the memo that was previously submitted by this board.
Okay. Shall do. So have we made a motion that we request PICO to provide an update to the Board of Supervisors?
I make the motion.
Yep. Is there a second?
Wait, could I just say something? John, let me just say something for a second here. I wouldn't want to approach PICO like we're attacking them or saying you're lying to us or something. Can't it just be something like, let them educate us on what the procedure is or whatever, and then we question them, well, then how come this didn't work October, whatever it was, in Yardley Hunt? Instead of taking like an us versus them approach or holding their feet to the fire.
I don't think I was proposing a belligerent or an adversarial approach to PICO. Just a simple question. This is great. We really appreciate what your response to our outage concerns. Could you give us an update? Is that adversarial? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. No, it's not. You're right. But I mean, if they haven't done anything, then guess what? They're not going to show up.
Well, fine. Well, that's an answer, right? We've done nothing. Well, then you can get adversarial. But
well, and Lee, it's up to the Board of Supervisors to not be adversarial. To ask, we're going to be the ones asking the questions. We can do it in such a way that is, hopefully anyway, is professional and not trying to goad anyone. It's
Dan, just one question. If PICO is at a Board of Supervisors meeting, isn't that a public meeting? So
sure.
Anybody could show up and attack PICO at will.
Well, so I've had to preside, when I was chair, I had to preside over, we invited who was Pennsylvania American Water to a Board of Supervisors meeting after we had the infamous turbidity issue, if you recall. And it was basically, as the chair, it's on you. So it was on me that night to prevent that from happening. And it's not difficult to prevent that from happening if the chair, and I think our current chair has a personality that can prevent that from happening, to be honest, to basically guide the conversation in a way that if people are going to attack, one, that doesn't usually get your problems solved or answered, so it doesn't usually last very long, and two, that he has he has the gavel, I guess you could say, but you can I never really worry about how our public in Lower Makefield, if they're going to have public comment again with someone that is a utility that provides them a service, if they're not living up to their, if they're not living up to their their contract with our residents to provide that utility, then they should be ready for something like that. In this case, even when we had in the PA water case, even when they weren't able to live up to that, their end of the deal, they showed us what their plan was. They addressed it. We asked them a few hard questions, but they answered the mail, and they've been moving forward in a very positive light, I think. In the future, so we should have PICO answer questions like that, in my opinion. In the future, when the sewer system is owned by a private entity, it's still a utility. So if the sewer system gets backed up and things aren't happening and rates are going through the roof, I would ask that we bring Aqua in front of the Board of Supervisors at some point in the future to answer the same type of questions. It's not, we have to treat them with personal opinion again, treat them professionally and with respect, but we don't have to treat them with kid gloves. They're adults, they're a business, they know what's going on. But I would hope that no supervisor or member of the public just comes in looking for a fight, because that's not going to accomplish anything. That's my personal opinion.
Okay.
right.
Well, there's a motion before us. Is there a seconder for that motion? That is to request PICO to provide an update on its systems upgrades.
Seconded.
Okay, seconded by Jason Simon. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, right.
Yeah.
Okay. On the agenda, I do have the PICO helpful power outage links on the LMT website. I don't know if that's a dead issue or not. Is there anything we can do? I think you should.
John, just shoot me an email. I'll move it forward. I'll push it rather than making you send it to Kurt, because it may get lost in his email if you send it to him. Hopefully it won't get lost if I do.
Okay. I must say that when we in the exchanges we have with Kurt in October, November, he was very responsive, which I appreciated. And I guess he's got a lot on his plate too. But item 5 on the agenda is this PICO helpful power outage links on the LMT website. I don't know how we would make that happen. I think you suggested it originally, Jason Simon. But,
yeah. So again, you guys could make a motion recommending that those links, and if you can provide them to me in an email, be placed on the LMT website,
okay.
so the public can get to them. It's that simple. We update the website every day or almost every day with stuff. It's not a big deal.
Okay, I shall.
It really isn't.
Item 6 on the agenda, racing down the list, is the generator installation address analysis. Is that a dead issue, Jason McFarland, Lee?
Yeah, there's nothing else we can really do with it unless you want to just update it when we get more records in.
No, it seems like it would be flogging a dead horse. That,
Jason, where did that end up? I know we got the lists. You didn't go through and map all of them, did you?
Yeah.
You mapped all of them. Jeez, that's a chore. Were you seeing? I mean, that's something that we could use for this for the meeting with PICO, right? We could let them know we did an analysis and we're seeing these trends, and why are we seeing these trends, kind of thing. So I apologize because I don't recall seeing the map.
Well, I think we did share it with PICO before they came, because I remember Jason bringing up the number of installs during the call. So I think I did.
Wasn't sure if you had, okay. I know we had the list just before that meeting. I thought you were still doing the analysis after the meeting. That's my recollection, but obviously my memory is not great right now.
Yeah, no, I think we got it all done, didn't?
Well, I was trying to get the number of generator installations here in my community, and for some reason it's been hard to get that, because I think we were looking for the number of generators in the Regency area and we couldn't get a definite number. I think there was just one, and that wasn't right.
So yeah, Jim Majewski at the township maintains a list, and I think again, if memory serves, Jason Simon, you got it through a certain date. I think I tried to supplement that not long afterwards with some updated numbers. So Lee, there is an active list. You would have to go through Jim, I think, you can check against what was
Well-
provided, I don't know, a year or more ago at this point, but
Well, the information we got did underline the expense laid out by residents over the last 5 years, which would, from a conservative estimate, Jason Simon, you came up with what, $5 or $6 million invested by residents in generation.
Something like that. Yeah, it was significant as
Yeah.
a cumulative effect. Yeah.
So from that point of view, it served its purpose. Hey, yeah, we put quite a few $1 million into this. What has Pico done? So,
Well, it could also be I think Dan mentioned this, but it certainly could be just addendum or a data point we hand to the Board of Supervisors and let them ask questions about it too. It does, I feel like I said earlier, that our 5 elected officials are free to explore any topic they'd like if we are able to secure a meeting.
okay, I'll make a note to that effect.
Goes to
Okay. Which brings me to item 7, way forward for the ERC. We've been having these meetings every 3 months, and I'm not sure that I can see much benefit unless we do get some response from the Board of Supervisors. Just talking amongst ourselves doesn't do anybody any good, does it? As far as reliability is concerned.
I will, yeah, and I know this group's frustrated and I share that frustration. I will say, you may not, whether or not you realize it, just pushing the way you're pushing in a respectful manner, even though it may not get Pico in front of the board in the near term, or hasn't in the last year or so. It still has forced some more communication with Pico than before, because they know we have a group of folks that are all professional and know what they're looking at and follow what's going on and can provide instant feedback on Pico's activities in the township and reliability in the township. So it's always, whether you know it or not, your work has pushed certain things forward that may not be public, but have been very positive for the township, including the communications thing. I think we will see improvements in communication, which is probably some pretty high percentage of what causes us all frustration with Pico. They might be doing the work they're supposed to, but they struggle with communicating it. And at the same time, it's also pushed a lot of improvements over the last several years in different parts of the township. Still more to go, obviously, but I do think this board has had a very positive impact and will continue to do so. On my end, I'll keep pushing for this meeting. From an ERC strictly from other things you can do, we're going through, and by we I mean the boards and commissions that I liaise with. For example, the historical commission is trying to come up with a list of items that they would like to accomplish this year. Different policy recommendations or evaluations, etc. From a historic commission perspective, and they've organized themselves around that. Obviously, you all have been working very hard related to this memo with Pico, because that's really the primary goal. So I'll continue to push that. But it's okay. Feel free, I should say, to take a step back and see what other policy items you'd like to look at. I'll throw one that off the wall, right? Whether this board would like to look at if adding renewable energy to the mix would provide some additional reliability to the township in a different way. I'm totally trying to go something other than Pico, right? So if we have a renewable solar development somewhere in the township that the township manages and can provide energy, generate its own energy supply for a certain number of homes or township activities or something like that, if that's something this board would like to look into. Something a little different than the normal Pico stuff, if that's of any interest to this group.
How about solar driven lighting at Stoddard?
I mean, I know it's a little funny, but in reality, it's something to look at. That type
Not
of
for me.
stuff. No, I understood. That type of stuff it's a little outside the normal box, but it is related. If it's of interest to the group, I would have no issue with y'all looking into some of those sort of alternative approaches to electric generation in the township. Maybe some reliability issues. If you wanted to look at EV charging stations or something like that, any battery storage, anything that's tied to the grid to improve things outside of just typical Pico stuff. If it's of interest to the group and you want to pursue it, let's check it out.
A while back, maybe 10 years back, I did some analysis for Cool Cities with the environmental, whatever they are.
The EAC, yeah.
And it transpired that there was a lot of work being done, saying that we were very energy efficient, but nothing was actually done. And also 88% of the township's energy resides in the homes of people. So, it became a very, very different approach to be able to do renewables, because it needs to be centered around the homes. And we tried various approaches to get people to do energy efficiency, do renewables, energy efficiency mainly, but doing renewables. And it's a difficult task. There was an energy survey done of the municipal building, but I still noticed that they're old, and they're not programmable thermostats in the unless it's changed, and that's been 10 years.
Yeah. No, it's a couple of years ago we actually applied for a couple of grants to put panels on the administrative building and the community center. Unfortunately, we didn't win the grants, but we had a few. We did some preliminary designs to see what that would look like.
But you can see my point that that's the easiest part, the municipal buildings, but the most effective part is the homes.
Yeah. So the another approach you can have, and I won't go into too much detail here, but if we had a large open piece of land that we could put that the township owned, we could put solar panels on it, and you can actually, there's a concept called agrivoltaics that we work on, where you can actually do agriculture below the, you can either do agriculture, a pollinator habitat, or something like that below the panels, and then you might be able to provide power to 500 to 1,000 homes from a relatively small parcel of land using that approach. You wouldn't power the whole township, but there's certain things you can do to provide opportunities for that. So I get what you're saying, Bernie, because really the main renewable energy improvements will be from utility scale, like offshore wind, where they're doing gigawatts off the shore of New York and New Jersey coming up. Huge solar farms in central and western PA, wind farms out there, and getting all that energy onto the grids. Really, the way you move it forward. But yeah.
Dan knows why I brought up the ball fields, because I used to be the commissioner of the PAA.
Yeah.
And one of my passion issues was getting more lit fields for a whole variety of reasons. But one of the things that you just triggered with me is the leagues, and ostensibly then the parents, pay fees for when the lights are on at the ball fields on a per hour basis. And down at Macclesfield Park, there are old lights, and
Right.
it's really a heavy lift. And they're on, from pretty much, I would say, 9 months of the year, they're running. And so, if we're going to have any kind of discussion, partnerships or alliances with other, township groups or committees, in this case, maybe the sports leaders could lead to something, because it's those leagues have to pay a hefty sum, both in field user fees and then a separate electric invoice every season, and it adds up, and it can be those are true nonprofits, and they really don't have any incomes typically outside of the parents paying fees. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
no, it's a
It
good
could be
idea.
something we talk about.
Yeah, some cost benefit analysis of how to do that the best. That would be interesting.
Can I
Putting
just
in
ask
LED
you,
floodlights.
gentlemen, from Pico, do you get your monthly kind of use graphed and compared with the average and the efficient average person in Lower Makefield? Do you get that?
Yeah. Yes.
And does it strike a chord? I'm just asking.
Well, especially with the weather we've had this month, yeah, Pico is probably going to send me a box of chocolates or something, because we've been using a lot of power. Yeah, and we're totally electric, and especially right now with sub-zero temperatures, the heat pump doesn't work too well. So the emergency heaters kick in, and that makes the meter spin.
But
The meters
it's-
spin anymore. They're
but-
digital, but
you've got the information. Do you do anything about it?
not really. That hey,
Yeah.
if expense was no object, I'd retrofit our house to have a geothermal heat pump.
Yep.
But
Yeah, I've changed. I mean, I grew up in Maine, so with a very cheap father, so we never he never let the thermostat go above 50 degrees. So I learned, I wear sweaters a lot, and I still do. But I changed out, all my lights to LEDs and all that stuff. So my electric bill is relatively low, because I kind of have to, because that's my job too.
But I have Nest thermostats, and I get their report every month
Yep.
with a month over month, and I will make adjustments to windows of time when I don't know if we're going to be home, so I can create through my app on my phone, or actually at the device, I can set different times for it to not operate, or at least have a lower temperature, which is nice, because I feel like I have more control over 24 hours a day than I used to have. So it's kind of an interesting use of the graph, Bernie.
Yeah.
Different graph, but same concept.
I do that too, Jason. It's actually, I don't have Nest. I think Honeywell has their version of it.
And I will
nice.
I will tell you all, I've set up a budget payment system for years at Pico, and it's actually great the way they do it. And when I started using the Nest, when they would adjust the budget over the last 3.5 years, I've noticed that it's gone down significantly from where I was when I was just operating straight with Pico with standard thermostats, almost to the degree of like for my full house, that in the summer we never have opened windows. It's about $260 to $280 a month, depending on when Pico does the adjustment. And I think it's great. And it came down from being in the mid threes and pretty quickly. So some education for our residents too about the value. It doesn't have to be a Nest, but all the thermostats
That's a great idea.
and using those effectively.
Well,
Dan, if somebody would just put that a programmable thermostat with that clunky old one that's on into the meeting room, adjacent to the meeting room, and tell people this is what you should be using.
That's a great idea. It's a simple, great idea. Yeah. And Jason, you would be what's known as a prosumer these days because of using your thermostats. That's something I took a class on that this summer.
It's a
At some point, you may
prosumer.
be a prosumer. So at some point, you may be able to make, once the grid gets updated, you may be able to make some money off of that.
I'd just like to add one thing we have done to the house over the past 12 months. We had our roof insulated, the inside of
That's the key.
the other side of the roof with spray. We had that spray insulated, and boy, that's made a hell of a difference.
Mhm.
We used to feel cold air coming down from the ceiling in weather like this, but we don't now. And you can go up in our roof, and it's bearable.
Do you have a vent to pull the air out in the summer when it's hot?
No, it doesn't get hot.
Of the house? Well, yeah.
Yeah, the roof is so well insulated now, it doesn't get hot under the roof, and it doesn't get cold either.
Yeah.
Well, within reason, but it's not like it used to be. So has that made a difference to our bill? I guess I'll wait for the next Pico bill. I also have one of those Sense units. It's in our electrical panel, and it monitors the load 24 hours a day, and it'll flag up unusual occurrences. So,
and I just find that Pico's information is pretty good because it can get hourly data as well. You can kind of graph the hourly data, and sometimes we have electric heat, and sometimes it kind of peaks at 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's kind of interesting. So I put a programmable thermostat in there. That worked.
We could always ask Pico to come to it, not necessarily a board meeting, but come to some township meeting, at the community center and explain to people how to do all this stuff.
And
That's
About a
great-
table at Community Pride Day.
and
Exactly.
then we'll ask them the questions.
Set them up, huh? Look at you. Sneaky.
Then the other shoe drops.
John, do we have agenda items left, or are we good?
Well, the way forward for the ERC, that's what we're talking about now. Any other items? I don't have any other items.
Well, maybe what we can do in our next meeting in 3 months is have a way forward conversation and expand on these ideas.
Way forward at next meeting. And
That can be our agenda.
yeah, that's the question.
Yeah.
Are we going to have another meeting if we don't hear anything positive back from the Board of Supervisors?
I think we should do one and talk about this topic and see what we can brainstorm.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay. A way forward. I'll put that in the minutes, Jason. And we can brainstorm. Anything else?
Thanks everyone for having this meeting.
Yeah,
Appreciate all your time.
Well, the next meeting will be 3 months from now, and I'll work it out with Katie McVan. Other than that, do we have a motion for adjournment? Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
I'll do it.
Good, you're a good man, Bernie.
Jason, did you say no?
I was just joking.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good night, guys. Thanks for
Stay
being
warm,
Have a good one,
everybody.
y'all.
Thank you.
Take care.
Good night.
You gonna leave the room?